Your wife cannot trust you to be safe. If you are reacting, if you're defending, excusing, explaining all the time, that is analogous to a lighthouse going out. I cannot trust this lighthouse to be on to save me. She was saying to me is like, you are the lighthouse that goes out and goes on when it's convenient. When I learned to practice engaged indifference, I became the lighthouse that stays on all the time, regardless of the storm. I am engaged, but indifferent of the outcome or indifferent of your reaction. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the TPM Show. And once again, I am joined by my brother and our CEO, Brad Holt. Brad, thanks for being here, man.
It's awesome, man. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it's great having you here because, for a lot of reasons. One is you get to see my kids, my wife, spend some time, then you and I get to brainstorm and we get to look at all the parts of the movement that we call TPM and what's going on with that. And it's fun because we get excited, lots of jokes, little laughter and banter coming through. We also get to do multiple podcasts and shows like this where we can do one and, come back and do another. No secret that we do these back to back often and look at topics. But this one came up and you were talking about how, or Colton, who actually does all the video editing for this, mentioned that a lot of men mentioned to him that they want to understand engaged indifference a lot more. Mm-hmm. And engaged indifference, really to me, I'll tell you what it means to me and why we put it into the program. Engaged indifference means I am engaged, but indifferent of the outcome or indifferent of your reaction, right? It's not like I'm closed down or anything. I'm not stoic or stonewalling. Mm-hmm. I'm engaged. I'm here. I'm present. I'm listening to what you have to say, but I'm not going to react to the words you say. If there's an attack or if you throw a backhanded compliment or whatever else it is, I don't react to it because I'm indifferent of your outcome.
Mm-hmm. I love that because when you're communicating with, there's the pre, and if I'm in a bad place, I worry about it. Mm-hmm. Oh, what's going to happen? If I say this to Doug, he's going to be triggered.
Yep.
There's being there, what you just said, is engaging.
Yep.
But the key is if I really am present and grounded and I'm getting things from inside, I don't get the outside affect me. Meaning I can be a lighthouse, as we always say, meaning I'm there. The reason that's so important, I find, is it's the after. If you and I get in a disagreement, as brothers, we've never had a disagreement. So this is
well, as long as you agree I'm right, we're good.
It's good that we get it out, but it's really almost the most important part is the after. If I didn't use engaged indifference, if I was actually getting my validation, my value from how you felt about me, because it does hurt if you don't like me or mad.
Yeah.
But if I just go walk away and pout, then you're trying to figure out, how do I fix this? Now we actually go different directions. But if I am truly engaged in different, I'm a lighthouse. And when we're talking, we get upset. The next day, I'm okay. And then that creates a safe space. It creates an opportunity for both of us to continue communicating. And it really is a big difference with my kids. It's really a big difference with my wife. And then work too, is that, okay, we didn't agree, but he came back. He's the same guy. There's no hidden agenda. They now know that, okay, they let their guard back down. We can have some continued communication. Otherwise, people get really separated quickly.
Yeah, they do. And then when I think of engaged indifference, the way that we apply it as well within the TPM ecosystem, if you will, it's really the antidote to being a deer, right? So DEER is an acronym we use, which is defend, excuse, explain, and react. So when I'm in conflict with my wife or with anybody in business or whatever else it may be, but I'm going to use my wife, Erin, who's been on the show, as the example. So if I'm in conflict or I'm just nervous around her, or I'm just trying to be the nice guy, and I say something to her, or I want maybe... Here's the scenario I'm going to set because it's hard for me now because Erin and I are in such a great place. It's almost hard for me to remember and go back to where a lot of guys are right now. But I had a guy I was talking to right now, and he and his wife have been in such a hard place. He's been rejected so many times by his advances on her. He doesn't want to ask her out. Mm-hmm. They're married. He doesn't want to ask her out though because what she's going to reject him. So you talked about the pre voice coming in. So what he could do, I'll call this guy Jared, right? Jared 1.0, and then I'll tell you what Jared 2.0 can do and how engaged indifference links the two. Jared 1.0 might say, hey, babe, do you want to go out tonight? And his wife goes, I'm just tired, right? He could react, go, well, we never go out. We never do anything. You don't want to hang out with me. You don't want to spend time with me. And that's just needy energy. And to your point, he's seeking external validation. And he's basically making up a story of whatever she says, means he's not good enough, all those things. Now, Jared 2.0 shows up to that same conversation with engaged indifference. He doesn't go into deer mode. He doesn't react, right? And so he goes, hey, babe, do you want to go out tonight? And she says, I'm pretty tired. He sits there, goes, oh, okay. You must be tired from work. Now he can have a conversation and she can talk more. Now they get into dialogue. Who knows where that dialogue can be? That dialogue could lead to intimacy. She might say, why don't we stay in tonight and be together? Why don't we go out tomorrow night? Or as she's talking and loading her berries, as we say, she may get the energy and want to go out because now her husband, her man's actually listening to her. He now becomes more interesting. Engaged indifference allows the man to be that lighthouse, right? And so for guys that we haven't talked about the lighthouse in quite a while, Brad. So the lighthouse to me, like if there's a ship out at sea, I'm going to tell the longer version of the story because I haven't told it in a while. And you get to sit there and listen. It's funny to watch you just nod your head. Imagine a ship out to sea. And I picture like the New England coast, right? Really rough seas that are out there, rocks everywhere. Imagine a storm rolls in and it gets dark at night. The ship is out there and the storm hits. I mean, I'm talking 30-foot swells, thunder, lightning, and everything. And the ship's captain goes, if we stay out here, we are going to sink. We need to get into shore. However, there's rocks everywhere, right? And as that ship's captain is going, it sees a lighthouse in the distance. It goes, finally, safe harbor, right? So the ship's captain steers the boat towards that lighthouse and hits full throttle. I need to get into that lighthouse for safety. But as the ship's captain gets closer and the storm's still coming down, the lighthouse goes out. He's like, well, what do? There's rocks everywhere. They have to go back out to sea. The light comes back on, goes back towards the lighthouse again, going, finally, I'm gonna make it. Otherwise, I was gonna die out here. And then the lighthouse goes out. And the ship's captain has to make a decision. I have to go back out to sea, go down shore because I cannot trust this lighthouse to be on to save me. Now, in that analogy, as you know, Brad, the ship out there is your wife, or it could be somebody else. But in this analogy, we'll say it's your wife. She's looking for safe harbor, safety. You as the man are the lighthouse. If you are reacting, if you're defending, excusing, explaining all the time, that is analogous to a lighthouse going out. We react. We're not grounded. We're not solid. Your wife cannot trust you to be safe. So many men, and I heard this from Aaron a long time ago. So many men hear from their wives, well, I don't feel safe. And guys had the same reaction I have. I was like, I'm a big guy. I'm tough. I box. I do jiu-jitsu. Like, you're safe. I never pushed you, never laid a hand on you. Like, I can't believe you say you're not safe around me. My voice was saying like physical safety. I can protect you. Why are you saying this? She was talking about emotional safety. And that, again, what she was saying to me is like, you are the lighthouse that goes out and goes on when it's convenient, goes on when it's easy, goes on when you're not pissed at me, right? Or reacting. Because I was in that relationship at that time, deer, right? Everywhere else, I was the wolf, but I come home, put my hand, it was like kryptonite on that doorknob when I went into the house. It was like deer mode. Yeah. And so that happens. Now, when I learned to practice engaged indifference, I became the lighthouse that stays on all the time, regardless of the storm. A storm crashed against me, being my wife's storm of whatever she was throwing at me. When I stay on with engaged indifference, she can melt into me because I was engaged with her. I didn't just shut down, which is my old tactic. Just, okay, I'll just close down. It's better than yelling. No, I stayed engaged, but indifferent of what she was saying. So therefore I didn't react, run away, or any of those other things that men do. Then she could just melt into me because she now could trust me to be stable.
I know, because that's such a trigger word, safe and stuff like that. And I think a lot of the guys, deer, defensive, that's obvious. I'm not doing that. React, I'm not doing that. Excuses, but we explain. Let me give you, and we just want to rationalize things. We just try to solve the problem.
It's justification, right?
Yep.
Let me justify my actions, mom, right? And that's what you're doing when you're in deer mode. You turn your wife, your lover, into your mother, right? And how unsexy is that, right? Your wife doesn't want to be your mother. She wants to be your lover. And when guys go into deer mode, and again, I did this, right? It took me a while. I didn't have TPM around to teach me the methodologies. So I had a lot of trial and error, more error than trial, going through it. But you get to learn that. And I would justify things. So it could be something like, why didn't you pick up your clothes in the room? Well, I don't need to pick up my clothes in the room today. I happen to do laundry on Saturday. I'd go into this long justification of my actions and proving that I'm right. Right? I am so right, rather than being engaged and different in this conversation and listening to her and trying to figure out, what is she really complaining about? Is it really the clothes? Is she just wanting my attention? Things like that. I mean, nowadays I'll just pull my wife in and jokingly go, babe, do you need attention? Right, do you need my attention right now? And sometimes she'll joke back and hit me, or she'll pull and she'll, yeah, I just need you. And so I treat her that way. It gives us the chance and the opportunity to take these kind of things that used to be triggering things when I'm engaged in different. Now it gives us the opportunity of having communication, being intimate, and taking things to the other side, where arguments that used to take 2 weeks last literally minutes, if tops.
Yeah, the word indifferent, I think, confuses the guys sometimes. Is that indifferent doesn't we don't care. Indifference means other possibilities. Like you engage, and we have so many stories. So when I deal with the guys a lot of times, I go, would you treat me that way? If I invited you to a baseball game, hey, let's go see the Dodger games. I'm from Southern California. And you said no, would I go, oh, I would just call somebody else.
Yeah.
Or I'd go.
Yeah.
Or I'd ask you more questions.
Yeah.
That's the lighthouse. It's like, okay, but because we have these stories and these relationships, we just kind of like, oh, they said no because of, but maybe it was just like you said earlier, I don't want to go because I really want to have a romantic evening with you.
Yeah.
Or, hey, I just want to just be quiet together. And that's just the possibilities. So,
or the Dodgers suck. It could be a lot of reasons.
We're going into fantasy land now. Okay. But yeah, it's just, engaging gives you all the possibilities. The difference is not reacting. Because I want to go to the Dodger game, I just go anyway.
Yep.
If I want to go to the fair with my wife and I really want to go, I tell the guys, go. If your wife doesn't want to go, that's cool. Or ask her why, or she might. And a lot of times is, well, I really want to go next Monday. But we've already stopped and went to deer mode, and all the possibilities are ended when give them a little space. You never know what's going to happen if you don't engage.
Yeah, and I'm with you that the indifference can be challenging for some guys. And again, it's not stoicism. I use stoicism as an example for guys to wrap their head around it. You know what I'm saying? Like they kind of understand what that means, but you're still engaged. You're just indifferent of their reaction.
Yeah.
And the outcome of the conversation.
Yep.
Like, so expectations could be one way. So Dodger game, I'll use that as an example again. You ask someone to go to the Dodger game, yes, no, your expectation is yes, and they say no, then your expectation's lost, and it has upset. When you react, now she gets defensive and upset. She reacts, then you react more, and then it becomes this like alpha thing where you guys are going back and forth fighting until you both just walk away or close down. And then, man, I mean, that used to last literally weeks because I'm bullheaded, weeks that I'd be pissed at my wife, and no intimacy, no great conversations. I wouldn't even want to come home, right? I wouldn't even want to come through the door. Like, man, I don't even want to go home. To fast forward to now, using engaged indifference, I'm super close. In fact, before coming here, my wife and I were sitting on the couch, or I was actually down working out in our basement, and my wife came down and sat on the chair. And just started saying, hey, I want to talk. How was your day? How was last night? What'd you guys do? And she wanted to know about my world because we're so connected.
Yeah.
And, gosh, 10 years ago, Brad, same situation. I would have never seen her. Like, because we would probably had a fight at some point. She'd be like, screw him. I'd be like, screw her. Just stay away from each other. Maybe say hi as we got a cup of coffee as we walked by. And it was horrible.
It reminds me, I like that intimacy thing you and Aaron did. Like you did a masterclass a while ago, shit test to seduction. That's how you would treat another guy. I'm a Gen Xer, so I talk smack. And when you're in a good place, engaged, and they give you crap, you just kind of talk smack back. And a lot of times they find that very adorable. Yep. And that's what attracted us in the first place.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't use the word adorable, but my wife would say it's sexy.
Yeah.
Because you're confident.
Yep.
Right? You're confident.
You're adorable too, but
Oh, thanks, buddy. And it's the confidence and the playful energy,
Yep.
and you're bringing them into your playful masculine energy, and they love it. Women melt when you can do that. I mean, if you even go, into the pickup scene, we have a coach that's really helps the guys with pickup, if you will, like dating women and et cetera. But that's the whole thing they teach these single guys, is to kind of be this cocky, funny guy that's out there. But most men are naturally that guy when they're in their natural state. And when they get scared of their wife or mad at their wife, it comes across as really mean sarcasm.
yeah.
And it's biting. The tent behind it's biting, because they might be engaged, but they sure as heck aren't indifferent of the outcome. And they're trying to throw little daggers. And that's like the worst poison you can do for a woman, for anybody for that matter.
Yeah. I mean, if that whole safety thing you talked about earlier, if the wife can make the man shrivel, that means that doesn't feel very good. Like with someone else much bigger, stronger, powerful, confident, what's going to happen then? That just creates even a bigger gap.
Well, what's my wife going to say, right? If she's talking to her girlfriends and she's like, yeah, my husband can't stand up to me. I can crush my husband. How is he going to protect me from the neighbor or the guy down the street if she knows that she's 130 pounds and, the guy down the street's 230, right? And if she can crush you, or get you to react or get you to tip over, as one of my guys always says, then, the guy down the street who's 230, he's going to crush you easily. You're not safe. You're not a protector anymore. Protector, provider, know your assignments.
Yeah. How many times do you think a woman tests a man just to see if they would just react to step up to being the man?
All the time. I think it depends on the relationship, but I think it happens all the time. I think when men are more consistently showing up as the powerful man inside of themselves, the lighthouse, if you will, happens less frequently, but still happens. But also, what's interesting when you say that, what comes up for me is when the men that go through the movement that are consistent, the guys that are consistent, when they get tested, they don't even know they're being tested because they act so natural to the test. To your point, they throw something back, or you want to go to the Dodger game? Nope, cool. I'm going out. See ya. It just doesn't occur the same way.
Yeah.
So like when Aaron tests me, it just rolls off my back like nothing. Right. And every once in a while I get caught up. Right.
Yeah.
But it's so rare. It's just because they're being engaged in indifference and being in that state becomes a natural state of who you are.
And even with guys, it's if I know that I can tell my truth, and sometimes drinking or just I'm emotional, I say the wrong thing, to know that I can come back, that's a huge deal in any relationship.
Yeah. Well, you can clean up.
Yeah.
Being comfortable. I mean, this is a totally side change, but you and I were talking about one of the guys that's within the movement that helps us. And we're talking about how everybody likes this guy. I mean, everybody likes him. One, he's a great guy naturally. Two, hard worker. But one of the things I think is magnetic about him is he knows who he is as a man, and he is unapologetically him. And it even as a guy, it's an attractive thing, not a sexual attractive thing, but I'm attracted to his energy and to that vibe that he gives off. And that's super cool. And that's where we teach the men through the activation method. It's a methodology to help you get back to there. And then we reset the alpha through the alpha reset.
No, I love that. It is incredibly attractive when you see someone who is really centered, because it's someone you aspire to be, because we know we're not sometimes.
Yep.
And that person who is just themselves, that's a person I really want to connect with.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
Do you know
that's why you're here. Yeah. But with engaged, yeah. And I wanted to go back just because I'm thinking of the guys listening to this that may have not heard the concept before. I talk about in the book, right? The book on how to save a married man's guide to how to save your marriage without talking about it. You can grab it at Amazon. It's as cheap as you possibly get a book. We're not selling it for profit. We're out there just to give the information out, guys. So if you head over to Amazon, you can Google Doug Holt or how to save my marriage without talking about it. It's all there. So I break down engaged indifference in that book. And the key principle that I want men to walk away from, Brad, here from listening to this is do not react to, well, actually, let me change that. What I want you guys to think about is don't get caught up in the outcome. Don't get caught up in the outcome of the conversation. Think of yourself more like a journalist. When you come in there, a journalist typically is asking questions, but it puts their opinion to the side, off the table, if you will, and just gathers the information, nods like you're doing to me right now, and looks, and does it. You're not waving your hands as much today, and but they take in the info, and it's almost like they're unbiased, if you will. Yeah. I want you to be the journalist, be inquisitive and have fun, and rather than reacting.
I love that. I use childlike curiosity.
Love it.
And or the anthropologist, like discovering. And if we come with that, it's because there's so much depth, like things we didn't know. And this really does. We deal with business leaders, this is a great way to be a leader.
Yes.
With your teams, engaged in difference, engage them, pull in the information, be curious.
Yeah. Well, here's another tangent, because you and I love to go down tangents. But man, I got to tell you, like when every guy I coach, right, it's like, how long have you been married? 10 years, 20 years, 6 years, whatever it is. I'm like, hey, what books does your wife read? They don't know. What is she into? They don't know to a deep level. They know some of the stuff. I'm like, the problem is, and this goes for business leadership too, with your staff and your team, we get pigeonholed in thinking that the person that we married is the same person they are today, right? And I was talking to a guy, Brad, and I'll tie this into engage in difference somehow, but I'm telling the story anyway. I was talking to a guy, and he was talking to me about his wife and da-da-da-da. And I could tell that he'd been married for, I think, 13 years or so. He was talking about her when they got married. Like, she used to be this way. She used to da-da-da-da, all the things. I said, what books does she read? He's like, I go, does she read? He's like, I don't know. I don't know what she's reading. She's always got her headphones in. She listened to music. What music she listened to? Didn't know. There's all these things he just didn't know about her. And I was talking to him. I go, that's interesting. Okay. I go, you guys got married, what, how old? Okay. Oh, or 20s. You're okay. Got it. Would you let that version of yourself run your business right now? No way, man. Oh my gosh. I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. Okay. So would you let that version of yourself sleep in bed with your wife and raise your kids? No way. Oh my gosh, I was, out of control, whatever it was. So why do you think your wife or your coworkers or your employees, your staff are the same people 13 years ago or 5 years ago or 1 year ago that they are today? And so your childlike curiosity brought that in my head, is with your engaged in difference, find out who they are today, right? People change. Gosh, I hope you guys are changing, right? I hope you are, because if you're staying stagnant, you're dying, right? And that's where courses and education or listening to shows like this are really helpful. But you have to have that curiosity and get into that person's world to realize who they are today versus 13 years ago in this example.
I love that, because sometimes the guys will ask me, well, how do I talk to them? What do I say? I go, ask questions. Well, they give me short answers. I don't know what to ask. Go, just like a client, do some research.
Yeah.
Figure out her habits, figure out her hobbies, reminisce about family. Really ask good questions so you can engage and get the conversation going.
Yeah. Like, hey, what books you reading lately? It doesn't have to be complicated. I think guys are just so out of it. We'll put this in the show notes, guys, but we have a guide on how to do the perfect date night. And then there I have 20 icebreaker questions. And you guys, it's free. It's a free PDF, ebook, whatever you want to call it, we put together. And it's valuable because we wrote it. But it's got those 20 icebreaker questions. Even if you just download it and took those 20 questions, awesome. Do that. Again, we'll put the link into the description below, wherever you're getting this. And that is a great start. And make it feel natural. And if you can't make it feel natural, read them. Right? There's also cards you can buy. Like, you and I both have the questions, right? Table topics.
Yeah.
I've got about 6 other ones. Mo, who we work with, sent me a box of cards, which are awesome. Thanks again, Mo. Always love giving gifts, but she sent me a very thoughtful gift. And in that gift was a book of questions for relationships, right? So Aaron and I could ask these questions, which we have, and it brings us closer. And sometimes these questions can be silly, or sometimes they might know the answer. But what it can do is spark another question. And worst case scenario, if it's a silly question, you laugh. That's not a bad worst case scenario for most marriages, right?
I love the table topics idea. I'm always shocked what friends, my wife, my parents, or you might say, and I think I know the answer. And all of a sudden you hear something totally different.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about, is communication. Asking a question, regardless of what they say, you just engage, but you're indifferent. You're not reacting to it.
Yep. Oh, I can tell you, birthday after birthday, everybody thinks my favorite dessert is the same dessert it's been forever. It's changed. But when they serve it, I'll smile and play it off. But you know, your favorite dessert changes over the lifetime. Your favorite meal. If I say, oh, what's the last meal you're going to have on a desert island? It's probably going to change from when you were, 21 to 41 or whatever. But people change in all areas of life. So be inquisitive, and that's a great way to practice some engaged indifference.
I love that, man. And as I reflect on this, guys, when we had a family event, one of the spouses said something and the husband was very surprised. And she candidly said, well, if I said it to you directly, I was afraid you'd react to me. This is a safe space because I have witnesses.
Yeah.
And that person felt terrible. And guys, if we don't provide that safety, that lighthouse you described earlier, they're not going to share until they get into it. I do marriage counseling with my wife, not marriage counseling, but go to marriage conferences all the time. And it gives her an environment. And I'm always a little bit surprised that she'll bring up some topics, and it shows that, I haven't provided that space for my wife to tell me directly. She waited to hear, to share. And it just shows me how we kind of all need to continually improve.
Love it. Love it. Well, thanks again for being here, man. I really appreciate all that you bring to the guys and to the movement.
I love it, man. Thanks for letting me be here.
You got it. Well, gentlemen, as we always say in the moment of insight, take massive action. Go to Amazon or whatever else and get table topics or something like that. But if anything, grab the free ebook on the perfect date night. You should be dating your wife regularly as is, but at least get those icebreaker questions. There'll be the link in the show notes. And if you're interested in finding more about the activation method, there'll be a link down there as well for you guys. Take care. Remember, we're always in your corner.